Welcome to Fantasy Golf. Okay, I'm going to go through our picks, this last year's picks and this year's picks that I'm going to choose. Last year, I had as my number one pick Curtis Dancy, which turned out to be a great pick as he finished first overall in his division, the A division. B division, Steve Arrowsmith. He did very well at times, but they weren't all on the same page. Every time Steve did well, the other three didn't. In the C division, I picked Pat Fitzgerald, my good friend Pat. I thought he'd come through for me big time, and it didn't happen. And in the D division, Dan Corville, pretty steady guy. Again, much like Steve Arrowsmith, every time Dan did well, Steve did, and that type of thing. The good advantage is that they were on my team, so I was able to keep an eye on them this year. So let's go on to I'm going to pick this year. This was a tough decision this year and as to who I was going to pick for A, because I had Robert Mustard's back, Jarrett Coyle's off to a great start, and we got a host of other players who are playing really well. But you know what? Curtis Dancy, who's not off to the best start this year, I still got to stick with him. He's so steady. I really believe he's going to come through in the end. There's been a little change this year. My B pick from last year is not in B anymore, but one of my other playing partners is in B this year, and that is Dale Riddell. And while Dale's shoulder is hurting him, he still hits the ball pretty good, and I'm pretty confident in him coming through for me this year. My B pick last year was now moved to C is Steve Arrowsmith. He's also in my group. And Steve, I have confidence in him. I'm sure he's going to do much better this year. He seems to be hitting the ball more solid, and he's much more consistent. So I'm looking forward to big things from Steve this year. And finally, my D pick, I couldn't abandon him again in my group, Dan Corville. Danny has off to a good start. He's playing really well, striking the ball solid. Good, solid D player, and I think I'm expecting big things from Dan as well this year. It might be no accident that Dale, Steve, and Dan are also in my group, and I might say a few words to them as they're playing to encourage them to do better. And maybe a little coaching as well. So I look forward to fantasy golf this year, and now on to how you choose your team. Okay, I'm now ready to pick my fantasy golf team, and the way you start is, what's this? You got an email from me saying fantasy golf instructions right here. It says, hello, John. We are finally beginning the process of choosing our fantasy golf teams. Attached, you will find the fantasy golf instructions. And the instructions are given here. If you click on the link, you will go to the fantasy golf instructions. Give it a second here. The instructions to appear. And there they are. And just so you know, I'll go through them quickly. Fantasy golf is open to all members of men's leagues. No extra charge. You can win $25 a week and up to $300 a year if your team actually wins. Every member of this year's league will be able to be a team owner, and your deadline this year is Monday, June the 6th. You'll be asked to fill in an electronic form, which we're going to do in a minute. Number one rule is you can't pick yourself. Okay, just remember that. Your score, in fact, is used as a possible replacement or for a tiebreaker, possibly. Each week, the top three scores of each team count for your team score. That determines who's going to win the weekly prize, and it also determines who wins the overall prize at the end of the year. In case of a tie, the fourth team member will be used, and if they're still tied after that, then your score will be used. If a player withdraws from men's league or is injured and can't continue, we'll make every effort for you to choose another player. But right now, what we do is we use your fourth player and yourself to replace them. Okay, now how do we pick the players for fantasy golf? Well, Existing players from the 2021 men's league who played at least 12 games. Now, remember, last year we had an 18-week season. So if you play 12 games, that's 2/3 of the season. Those players are automatically in. Any players this year, new players who played at least 3 games and had a Golf Canada handicap were included. Or if you didn't have a Golf Canada handicap, but have played 4 games in men's league and men's league established your handicap, you were included. And there were a couple of injured players from last year that couldn't get all their rounds in or didn't play at all, and they were also included. It was not their fault they were injured. Once you fill in the form, you go down to the bottom, and please don't forget to press the submit button. You will then be given an email confirming your choices. If you don't see the email, it might be in your spam folder, so take a look there. So there's a weekly prize of $25 gift certificate that's available for the owner with the top 3 players. Ties will be broken by draw. Prizes for the owner is the highest point total at the end of the year. And just a couple of tips. Look for the players who come out for most events because it's the top 12 scores that count. So if a player plays 22 events, they can throw away 10 of them. So they're, probably going to do very well. If you're not sure how a player is doing this year, like if they can come out a lot, just ask them. You got Monday, June 6th to decide. And there's a lot of data in the men's league archive. You could look at past year's point totals. You could look at all sorts of information. If you go to the web page, look under archive. I've archived information right back to 2010. So all that information is there. Good luck. So look at this. Click on this link to open form. So let's click on that link. Let's open the form. Let's wait for the form to open here. And there it is. Okay, so you have to put in your email. So I'm going to put in my email. My first and last name, John Karam, and choose player. So as you've seen in the previous video, I've already made my player choices. Curtis Dempsey is my A player. Group B, Dale Riddell. You just hit the down button, find your player. In Group C, it's Steve Arrowsmith. I hit that arrow, and there's Steven. And Group D was Danny Corville. And then I press submit. And that's all there is to it. You've picked your fantasy golf team. You should get a confirmation email, and that's it. Have fun. And don't forget, the deadline is June 6th.